Recording. Please keep your eye on the waiting room so that I'm not distracted. Yes.
Good afternoon, Wealth Masters. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Match Conversation, the much awaited one with the legal brain. Who am I? Whom am I to introduce this one? So please help me welcome the CEO of Octane DC, who is the host for today, Dr. Cynthia Quarcoo, to introduce our guest and also lead the conversation. Over to you, Dr. Susie.
Thank you very kindly, Evans. Welcome, dear friends and guests to our third edition of engaging on topics that speaks to the issues of wealth management and wealth creation, things that are very close to our heart. Today, we will examine legal considerations for wealth creation as we have advertised on our flyer. It's not enough to desire wealth. It is not enough to accumulate wealth. What will complete the effort is when we begin to pay attention to protect what we have accumulated. Importantly, how and who we pass our wealth to. On our stage this afternoon for the next hour is a very special guest, a big sister I was blessed to get connected to in January 2021. She's the founder and managing partner of CQ Legal and Consulting and has extensive experience as a corporate and finance lawyer in Ghana and the United Kingdom. She has a strong understanding of the African legal business landscape, including the unique cultural and political challenges across different countries. Her achievements amongst many. She was recognized by Chambers Global and Legal 500 as a leading lawyer within the field of general business law, Ghana, 2009 to 2012 editions. She's recognized as the leading lawyer by IFLR 1000, a contributor to the World Bank's flagship Doing Business project from 2007 to 2017. Last but not least, Cynthia is the main brain behind the business brand Sarkodie, a leading Ghanaian music personality, as well as other artists in Ghana. Sarkodie taking Ghana to the next level. Wealth Masters, guests and friends, our guest speaker for this afternoon, Miss Cynthia Quarcoo. Cynthia, okay. Welcome to us.
I mean, I'm always confused. I'm always confused when I'm introduced, but it's a humbling pleasure to be here this afternoon with all of you. The subject matter of wealth means a lot to me.
Yes.
In addition to the professional profile, I'm also a mother of 6.
Wow.
And yes, my oldest daughter is 28, be 29 this year. And my last one is 18, just about to go to university. I'm also a 2-time cancer survivor. So the matter of preservation of wealth for the next generation is definitely something very dear to my heart, which led me to set up a dedicated private wealth practice within my firm. So this is one of the rare occasions where I'm going to be speaking, not just as a lawyer, but as somebody who also has gone through experiences that have shaped my thinking when it comes to wealth management. So I'm also on a learning journey, as well as being blessed with the knowledge to understand what the legal considerations are. So I'm excited about this, and I'm hoping we're going to have a very open discussion on the importance of wealth creation and management.
We can't hear all that you have to share with us. Very interestingly, you have already answered my first questions. What inspires you, your interest in business and corporate matters. So let me start. I like stories. So let me start with a short story so that we can begin our conversation on a good note. There's a story of a company in Zimbabwe owned and run by Indians that has survived over 5 generations.
Yep.
The company's core business is in the production of buttons, only buttons for shirts, dresses, etc. Many have reasoned what accounts for the success of this generational button making business has purely been because it is managed by Indians, who are generally perceived to be good managers. As a corporate lawyer, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay. I would like to say that it is definitely not because it's managed by Indians. It is because the founder of the company had a legacy living mindset. One of the problems we have in Africa when it comes to privatization of assets, either individual assets or assets which are gained through the setting up of businesses, is that we often have a short-term vision. I've been trying to battle with the reason why most of us have that sense, because it's quite contradictory, because we are also the same people who will acquire assets, die without a will most of the time, or acquire assets and attempt to have a will that is distributed to our family. You know, the whole idea of preserving money in the bank, preserving assets, buying properties, is something that is instilled in us as Africans. So, you know, where we can afford it, we like to be able to, you know, we have that. However, when it comes to setting up business, we oftentimes have a short-term goal and so don't have a succession plan. And my passion for Africa, the reason I came back to Ghana, my passion for Africa and the development of our continent recognizes the importance that as individuals, we together must build Africa. And we can only build Africa if we have a legacy thinking mindset. When we go to the West, a lot of the benefits of even the tourist sites that we visit, Disney World, even the foods that we eat, McDonald's, KFC, were companies that were built hundreds of years back. And today, the main founders of those companies don't exist, but the legacy lives on. And I believe that it is a change in a mindset. And so what this company in Kenya has done is investing in ensuring that there are correct systems in place and has incorporated the idea of succession planning. The question I like to ask for those of us on this platform, including myself, is we all have businesses. And oftentimes in Africa, when somebody invests so much money in setting up a business, when they pass on, the business dies with them. Or they leave the business to family members and children who are beneficiaries who do not have any knowledge whatsoever about how to run the business, or don't have systems in place that makes the transition easy. So oftentimes you find that people build wealth, hand it over to their children, only for their children to dissipate the assets. So what has happened in this particular case is that they have incorporated succession planning. They have used that mindset to create systems, structures that has allowed them to be able to grow from one generation to the next. And that should be the template for all of us as individuals and business owners.
Very insightful. I hear generational business. I hear generational thinking, I hear generational wealth, all informed by succession planning.
Yeah.
As wealth masters, I want to believe that it's not enough to just think about what we put in our wealth portfolio.
Yep.
Our aim is to invest, and in the
Yep.
process, we create wealth. What has
Yep.
that got to do with talking to a lawyer about our investment? Why do we have to bother about talking to a lawyer about our investment decision?
Unfortunately, lawyers are, we get a lot of flack because it's like, why do you need a lawyer? I'm buying a property. Why do I need a lawyer? I am buying this asset. But lawyers are too expensive, all of that. Look, there is a niche area in the Western world, which is called the private wealth or the private client practice, which has lawyers who advise individuals and families and provides legal advice to them on a variety of matters to do with wealth creation, with the investments, with taxation, with estate planning and management, with wills, probate, all of that. So private client lawyers essentially are very important through the process. So let's use some examples. You started, I'm going to create an example of an ideal 35-year-old, or let's say 30-year-old, who has just started working, is a born-again Christian, so believes in the idea of tithing.
Is what is our webinar? How's the webinar?
You can proceed.
Believes it, yes, believes in tithing. So every month when they are paid, puts aside their 10% tithe, pays it to the church, but also believes in saving, has a savings mindset. So puts aside another 10% into a savings account, right? A normal savings account on the bank, assuming that when I put $100 or $200 in that account, at least I'm saving. When the reality is that that money could be working for you, right? So you may want to bring in a wealth creation expert or management expert who comes in to help you to be able to put that what you see as little money in the right investment schemes to make sure that that money is not sitting there. But in the process of doing that, there would be compliance, regulatory, legal issues, probably some documents that you may have to sign. And it's important that before you do sign, a lawyer has to look at that if it's important.
Okay.
That person then decides, I want to buy a piece of land, then buys that land. Before you buy the land, due diligence has to be done. You want to make sure that you don't come and have any problems with the transfer of the title of the land. And then this 30-year-old has acquired a certain amount of wealth by the age of 35. Then they meet an amazing, and this could be either a man or woman, by the way, okay, it's interchangeable. They meet another man, and this is something that Africans don't like to talk about, the prenup, for instance. I've acquired a certain amount of wealth. Ladies also acquired a certain amount of wealth. And the question is that, do we get married, put all our wealth together, or do we have a prenup? In Africa, it's a no-no completely, but I'm taking you through a scenario, okay? So the conversation as to, do I protect the wealth that I acquired on my own, put it in a trust? Do I sign a prenup, or is that wealth part of it? Because the questions that will come up, for instance, when people get married, and everybody goes into a marriage wanting the marriage to survive, but unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you have children, and you haven't arranged your assets, sought legal advice about the best way forward, you can be faced with issues. People die without wills, all of that. So throughout the whole process of planning your life, You do need a medical doctor. You definitely need a private wealth or wealth manager. And people assume that, oh, it's too expensive. But bottom line is that these people know the markets, they know the investments, they can take care of your money, and they can often make a lot of money for you. And you definitely need a lawyer. And I'm not by any means selling myself personally any lawyer, to make sure that they provide you with the correct legal advice to make the right decisions. So that's why I hope I've been able to convince those of you on here that a lawyer is important.
Yes, you have. You have. In our engagement with our group from the beginning of this year, we made a strong case that it's not a good practice to just get up and start investing. You don't hear about a financial and your attraction is because of the returns. But
Yes.
it's important that you engage a financial planner so that the whole journey to wealth creation has a beginning and has some points that you need to go back and engage and get some additional information and knowledge and continue. So that the terminal point is something that is informed through execution. So I'm happy you're making that reference that paying for service should not be the reason why we take the shortcuts, because at the end of the day, it just gets back to hunter. So I'm very happy to know that legal advisory should be something we need to seek for, that we shouldn't shy away because it is expensive.
Yes. And seek for it early on, because it oftentimes saves you a lot of money. Lawyers make a lot more money from you when they have to solve problems that you have created either advertently or inadvertently. Okay. And so my advice is that it's worth you definitely seeking the services or help of a financial planner and a lawyer to ensure that whatever investments you're getting into, you definitely are doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And reading all the the small print is usually what people don't understand. Yes, but it's very important.
We don't understand, we ignore, and at the end of the day, we create more problems for ourselves.
Very true.
I think this whole conversation about advisory and taking advantage of it, it's all informed by succession planning. In that, in creating the wealth, at the end of the day, we will not end up using the wealth ourselves, we will leave off. But if we have generational thinking on our minds or wealth on our mind, we are all thinking about leaving something for the next generation. So succession planning is what it is. Let me share another story. And then I think in the process of answering that's, picking some ideas from that story, we will appreciate succession planning very well.
Yeah.
Mr. Chineba was a rich old man. One day in his state of excitement, he told one of the elders of his family that he told them what was considered a secret for a long time. It was about who will inherit his property when he dies. He told his nephew, Anoche, the only son of his only sister deserves his inheritance. It was a non-negotiable position because that is what the account tradition demands. Unfortunately, this decision by Mr. Chineba empowered Anoche for the wrong reasons. Sadly, the young man was visibly seen misbehaving. Few months later, Anoche was involved in an accident on his way back from a party. He could not survive. And that incident forced Mr. Chineba to revisit or revise his decision on who his successor will be. So this is a story about identifying a successor ahead and working along with the successor, because you want to ensure a successful succession planning. But that's the point we have been making, that once you have succession in mind, you must have a name in mind and prepare the person towards succession. But there's the other part. Yes.
And that is very, very true.
Once you name the successor will even kill it before you die.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to touch on before I talk about that is that it is clear that without a valid will, there is a law in Ghana, the interstate succession law, which promotes spousal inheritance of property and assets. The law recognizes that spouses of the deceased, and this is a concern, and their biological or adopted children and surviving parents must be taken care of. The main opportunity for it is that, look, if somebody dies, so we have our traditions, the account tradition, my nephew is going to take care of me, but of course there is a succession law that provides the opportunity to protect surviving spouses for properties. Are you with me? Because we all work hard. So that's something I need to put out there, that there's definitely protection, okay? But on the other side, what we talked about in terms of naming your successor and not fully equipping that successor. There are people, all of us included, who have businesses that our children don't even know about. Don't know how. We don't tell them about the decisions. We don't train them about being able to one day come and take over if the intention is for us to build this wealth so that our children will come and inherit. And Mr. Trinebois, instead of telling Anoche that, look, I need you are going to be my successor. So I need you to come and work with me so that I can teach you about this, created an impression that he didn't have to do anything just by virtue of him being his nephew. Mm-hmm. So he had in his mind the idea that, okay, I'm going to inherit this idea. I've come to inherit this, amass this property, and of course started to live recklessly, which ended up, So the idea of succession is something that is extremely important, even in terms of the decisions that we take. Even as we create our wealth. I don't know what it is about Africans generally, but we tend to like to keep certain things away from our own children, right? I don't know whether it's a mindset or age thing, but I know families who have hidden wealth from, because the idea is that, okay, so if I tell my children the value of my wealth, or if I show them where everything else, then I'm spoiling them. My duty as a parent is to take care of them, get them to finish school, go to university, and once they're done, my job is done, and I have nothing else to do with them. Then they can go on and lead their lives, or we flip to the other side where we provide them with whatever they want, married or not. I had no families who are still putting adult children who are married on monthly allowances every month. But we fail to be able to incorporate them into our lives enough to share with them what it is we're doing, equip them to be able to take what we have created to the next level. Which begs the question is that, what is it that scares us? And I think I'd like to ask some of the participants on here what their views are about that. What is it? Because I've been asking myself these questions. I've got 6 children. And when I was confronted with being diagnosed with cancer, the reality for me set in because my kids were very young at that stage. And I asked myself that, was I prepared really? If I had passed on and with the children that young, as a parent, we all love our children and we want the best for our children. And I don't believe that any parent would want to be able to sit back or die, and if they have an eye to look at their children, see their children suffer. I really don't believe that, but particularly not the African parent. However, we don't, what is stopping us from having that mindset of whatever I acquire should be able to outlive me. So the next generation can take it on and pass it on and pass it on. What is it? And it's clearly an issue. And yes, it's definitely an issue.
Sometimes you wonder why we work so hard. If
I do too.
we are
As
so
a lawyer,
scared.
I sit. I mean, we do probate. Probate is one of our biggest areas as a firm, and it's amazing how through probate people die without wills. It left. We're dealing. I can't of course name names. We're dealing with a particular family. It was a gentleman who amassed so much wealth, had different children with different women. And a year down the line, we're still trying to sort out letters of administration because there are arguments about whether there was a surviving spouse. The first child's father died, left the woman before he died. There's issues about assets. Siblings from different mothers are fighting their mothers' battles for them within all of that. Are you with me? And I can't bear to think back and ask that this gentleman clearly amassed all this wealth for his children and his family. Did he really want this situation to become a problem? I don't. But did he think it through when it came to planning for when he's not here? Or is it that we are too scared to even think beyond the fact that we're not going to be here? What is it? There's definitely a psychological, cultural impediment that does not help our thinking to shape that mindset. And it has to change. It has to change.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hepzibah, I see you have some questions for her, but please hold on. All participants for the call, just keep your questions. We'll take them at the end of the delivery by Cynthia. So in our quest to create wealth, in our quest to build portfolio, in our quest to have something in store for the next generation, what are some of the minimum legal considerations we must bear in mind that we must not lose sight of? The minimum we should do.
The minimum you should do is that whilst acquiring your assets, make sure you get the right advice, the right financial advice, the right legal advice on anything you do. Investment schemes, buying of property, and it's never too late to have a will. Ensure that you have a will, and every few years or whatever, update that will. Bare minimum is whatever you're getting yourself in, advise. Advice will end up costing you less in the scheme of things. So make sure that you get the right advice without having to speak too much legalese. Yeah. Get the right advice.
Real on this call. A number of times when we think about will, we always say, okay, what do I have? I don't have anything. Why do I have to bother about? What point should we seriously about putting some legal documentation to cover our asset, be it a car we have bought, be it with a house we have bought, we are living in a land? At what point and at what age in life? Let me put it that way.
I personally think that once you start to acquire a variety of assets, and assets include money in the bank, right? Jewelry, land. Once, I wouldn't say wait till you've acquired 2 houses before you have a will. As soon as you've acquired 1 house, you should have a will. As soon as you have a bank account which has a savings element, you should have a will. So what I always recommend is that every 5 years or so, I mean, and depending on how the will is drafted, so a will is simply drafted, that the money in my account number so and so held at Barclays Bank or whatever goes to this person. Once you start getting inheritances of your own, you should have a will. I remember my grandmother passing on and leaving me with a whole chest of her gold, right? Unfortunately, it was stolen in an armed robbery,
Oh, no.
but that particular box of gold, I'm told later on, was worth so much. Okay, and it was in my will. As soon as my grandmother passed that on, I added it to my assets. I know this is going to my children. I have 6 children, so whatever houses I have, I want these houses to go to this person. So it's never too late, but as soon as you start to acquire a certain amount of wealth, assets, monies and accounts, investments, all of that, have a will. And then make it a habit every few years to update that will.
Okay.
Okay. I personally, if you have a will in 2010 and in 2012 you bought another property, update it. Update the will. Make sure you have a will. Because what is painful is for you to acquire all this wealth through your hard work. I mean, don't get me wrong, PNDC Law 111 is in place for those who die without a will. Okay, and so there is a mechanism in place laid down by law that if you die without a will, a certain amount goes to surviving spouse, surviving children, and then the extended family. But even that, it is important that you have a will, okay, because you then determine who you want to leave something for. I mean, for instance, I love pearls, okay? All my children, there's probably only one, the last one, who wants to be a lawyer too and loves pearls. So I know for a fact, and it's already stated clearly, that all my pearls go to her. Because I'm not going to hand over my pearls to somebody who's going to sell it to somebody else, because I know that it means a lot to her. So there is provision that all my pearls go to her because she's the one who loves pearls. So I think living a will is also an extension of showing the love we have for our beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Taking the time to say, look, when I'm no longer here, I want this house to go to this person. I want this house to go to that person. I want to set up a trust for the remainder of the houses to go for the benefit of my grandchildren, who I may not be here to take care of, but put it in a trust, get a planner to invest it, rent it out, or I love children. I want to support children for my village. So I want to set up a fund or a trust that outlives me. Invest the money into something when you make profits. Every year, give 10% to children in need of something, these charities. It outlives you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a labor of love. I that's how I see it. Allows your legacy to continue to live on.
I think it has a lot to do with attitude.
Yes.
It even has to do with acquisition of assets.
Yes.
In mind that, yeah, you live off this, you drive this car anyway, but it's possible somebody else will need to move that car and drive you to the hospital.
Yes.
So if we have it in mind that someday, somehow, someone will have to use what we have acquired, then we have the future in mind, and we are even able to even as exercise, giving things away whilst you are alive.
Yes.
So what is this thing about? What is this similarity between will and dying? So you start thinking about your will, and it's like, okay, are you about to die? And you want somebody else to live off. So what is it? What is it?
I think it's cultural. I really believe it's cultural, because if I don't know, it's a weird because I remember on Facebook there is a feature on Facebook that allows you to select two legacy people that if you pass on, you would want to have access to your Facebook account. So I named my two older daughters, and they got an email. And my first daughter came to me and said, "What's that about?" I said, "What do you mean, what's that about?" I said, "I got this email from Facebook saying that I'm some legacy something something." And I thought, yes. He said, "But why are you sending that? Why are you even doing that?" Okay. And then I took time to, but she was scared. Like, what, stop doing things like that. Don't scare us. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. But honestly speaking, Facebook has become so part of our lives, right? And I have most of my friends and people I've known all my life on Facebook, that if I passed on, even in terms of my funeral preparation or whatever it is, it's a possibility you may want to be posting things. But the idea that I was even thinking about it caused her to panic. So I don't know whether it's cultural, but yet we spend so much on funerals too. Are you with me? We spend so much on funerals. And so what is it? The fear of death, the fear of, okay, are we superstitious that when we start putting together a will, then it means that we are calling death upon ourselves, or what? It's weird, you know. I mean, I have somebody who has called me and said, "Look, on the basis of a friend of ours passing recently, his mother called me and said, 'Look, I need to come and sit in your office because I've got a will, but I don't want anybody to stress out my children when I pass on. I have detailed information of what I want to be done because I'm Ashanti and I don't want them coming to mess up. So I want to come and sit in your office. I want to document everything that happens, because of course the will would only be open after I passed on and probate kicks in and all of that. But in terms of when I die, what kind of service do I want? What kind of burial do I want? I want to document it so that in the event that I pass on, whether it's a letter, whether it's a video, my children should be given that so they know what to do. I love candles, right? I love the idea. I mean, I definitely don't subscribe to passing on before people go and throw some funeral at the stadium for me, when that money could be given to people on the streets who need it. All in my memory. And I'm sure that if I say I'm doing a crowdfunding, I say everybody put $10 in an account for me. Nobody will give me that $10. But when I die, they want to come and give some money out. You with me? I love candles. So I'm thinking, okay, when I do pass away one day, I would love a very small service. I just give me my candles. Make sure I have plenty of candles. Are you with me? But it took me a while, and maybe because I had an experience with a brush with cancer, and I was faced with the reality that there's a possibility that one day I won't be here. It made me a lot more comfortable with planning it, but it's definitely something we need to deal with as a society. It's something we need to deal with as a society.
There's a lot we definitely have to chew on. We'll pause and take some questions now, and
Yes,
then
please.
we'll come back and take some concluding thoughts. Obviously, there's still a lot.
We have to do this again.
A lot we don't know, a lot we continue to stay away from.
Yes, yes.
And a lot we are not ready to embrace.
Yes.
Just the way we are.
Yes.
So we'll open the mic now for questions to come in, but there's one from Hefzibah. Okay, Hefzibah is Nigerian, so she's definitely not familiar with our Akan culture. So she's asking if Mr. Chinenebua didn't have children. For that, for the reason he has to name his nephew as his successor. So maybe some spot of education.
Okay, so in the Akan culture, nephews inherit from the uncles. The first nephew, isn't it? I'm not very familiar. I'm not sure whether somebody else here knows more about the Akan culture, but there is definitely customarily, it is the nephew, the man's nephew, that inherits his assets. Okay, and created a problem because historically that meant that a lot of people, widows especially, when somebody just died, I mean, there've been horrific stories about somebody dying and then immediately the day after, the ebusia for the family come in and the nephew comes in and said, I'm the one who said, and throws the children out, which is why the interstate succession law 1985 was brought in, which gives a lot of protection to spouses and surviving children.
Okay. Obviously, when it comes to wealth creation or wealth accumulation, it's beyond just cash. It's beyond our bank balances. It's beyond our buildings. It's beyond our cars. It's beyond our personal possession. Bigger consideration is something we must also keep in mind, that we need to seek advice. So please raise your hand if you have any questions for us. Abraham, I see you chatting a lot in the chat room. You can say something to us now. Anything, any experience you want to share, because I know you engage a lot with people who have wealth.
Amen.
Hi, Sam. Your hand is up. Sam, you can unmute and speak.
Good afternoon. Thank you, ma'am. I have a quick question for the lawyer, please. My wife and I are married under ordinance. My question is, if all property are in our joint names, do I need to explicitly define it in a will that in the event of my death, she's the beneficiary or she's a de facto beneficiary?
I would say yes. I would say yes.
Is she the de facto beneficiary, or I need to explicitly define it in a will?
I think you need to. Well, I mean, I wouldn't take my chances by saying she's de facto. I think I would definitely define it in the will. I mean, jointly owned by her. Okay, so it depends on what it is you want to do. So when you pass on, are you saying that all the assets go to her automatically? Or is it for the benefit of the children? So question is that if it outrightly goes to her, right? And she remarries, those properties are hers, right? And she remarries, what happens? Abraham, are you there?
Yes, please, I'm here.
Okay, so I'm asking you. So you've acquired a property with her jointly, right? And touch wood, you pass on. She's a joint owner of that property, okay? So your tenants in common, as we say in the UK. So your share in the property, where does it go?
Okay, so I get you. The idea is that it will go to her and the children.
Okay, so I think you should define it clearly in the will, right? And is it going to her absolutely, or is it for the benefits of the children? Because if it's for the benefit of the children, the situation I created here is this: assuming she then remarries, okay? And then she and her new husband, and this is not saying that she will, I'm just trying to create real life examples of where problems come, okay? Then she remarries, the assets are hers completely. And she and her husband now, the assets now become part of their pool of assets. And he has other children. Think it through.
Thank you.
I'm trying so hard. I'm trying
Mm.
so hard not to, but you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yes, please,
so
I do.
You have jointly acquired the property. So you own 50% in that property. So I would define that clearly in a will, that my share in the property is for the benefit of what? My children. Okay, so whilst my wife is alive, whatever, 50% of that property, she holds it in trust for the children. Okay. Because if you don't define it, it's hers absolutely, isn't it? Or is it?
Right.
You see
Thank
what you
thank
see what
you.
you see why you should see a lawyer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
I bet.
Mhm.
We have a similar questions from two people.
Yes.
So you have the knowledge. You've heard it here that it's important to prepare a will. How do you convince your parents or older folks to prepare their wills without you coming across like you want their wealth or you want them to die? How do
Oh,
you
that
share this
is
information?
honestly, that is a difficult one. Because of the societal pressures and assumptions we have, right? Definitely for a child to go to the parents and I actually have somebody who has asked me the same question, came to me and said, look,
Mm.
my parents, there's four of us from the same mother, same father, but there are two of us who don't get along with the other two. Are you with me? And our parents have acquired so much wealth. We can see this happening, right? And we're trying to tell our parents to sit down and put something together, and they don't want to do it. How do we manage that? It's tricky. That being said, like I said, there is a PNDC law 111 who what definitely provides for surviving spouses equally. Of course, the surviving spouse comes first, and then the children, and then some of it goes to the extended family. So, but it's a very difficult conversation to have. I think that I always approach it from the point of view that as a loving parent, you would want that everything you have acquired, that when you're not here one day, that your children wouldn't have to suffer or come and fight over your assets. So it's a good way for you to document what your wishes will be to avoid conflict uh, amongst your children. So it's one of those things that you have to, it won't take a one day sitting down with you kind of, and if you are siblings, then maybe doing it together rather than one person initiating that conversation might be a better strategy than that. And letting them know we love you, but we think that this is the possibility. So have you thought about it? That's how I
That
would
is if
approach
you
it.
have siblings. What if, yeah, that is if you have siblings. What if you're an only child?
If you're an only child, then it's even more important for you to tread cautiously because your parents would think, okay, so this only child of ours wants to kill us so that he can take all our wealth. You wouldn't even wait for us to enjoy the wealth. It's a very dicey one, okay? But you have to just be very diplomatic in broaching the subject and how you start the conversation. Are you with me? Because yeah, how you start the conversation, asking about, and then maybe getting a little bit more involved in your your parents' affairs if they allow you to, reminding them of, are you sure, the due diligence has been done, this has been done, showing from a place of caring for them, right? That you're there to take, to support them in ensuring that whatever they work hard to acquire, you are also there to support them in maintaining that wealth whilst they're alive. And I think it's a matter of trust. Once you gain that trust with them, so for instance, if your parents are in the early, maybe 40s, 50s, then questions about have you planned for your own retirement, and
Okay.
opening up the conversation about it's still not too late for you to be able to plan towards your retirement, and I think once they start to see that the advice you're giving them is sound advice and you're taking an interest in their own, right, in their own affairs, they may open up to you a bit more.
Okay. I
to be
think
able
one
to
person has a
listen to you.
recommendation. That's a
Yes.
recommendation. Maybe we can get a lawyer to befriend your parents. That way.
That's a very good, invite a lawyer to dinner and then
Yes.
immediately start having conversations about wealth management. That's a good one, actually. Who gave that suggestion?
That's
I need to
Abraham.
consult Abraham. I need to consult you, I think.
Tila is asking if you
That's
can do
fantastic.
a will. Yeah, Tila is asking if you can do a will and leave out your family. Well, I don't know your definition of family in this instance, but a will
Well,
is
a will. A will is a will. A will is a will, and a will determines. You say who you want to take what. I mean, legally speaking, you can decide not to, but I think morally that was going to raise quite a number of eyebrows, isn't it? But there must be a reason why you want to leave out the family.
Okay. We have time for just one more. Akwesi, you'll be the last to ask your questions and then we'll wrap up. Akwesi, please.
Extend, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. This is an insightful seminar. Okay, I want to ask a question. There have been numerous occasions where I've heard that a will have been altered after the person who prepared the will have been died.
Yeah.
I want to know, does this happen in real life, or it's just a talk by disgruntled family members who did not get quote unquote what they think they deserve? And if it happens in real life, how can one protect him or herself to make sure said things do not happen after his or her demise?
Well, does it happen in real life? Personally, I haven't come across, and doesn't say that it doesn't. It does. I've heard of cases here in Ghana, in the UK, where people have attempted to forge wills or have forged wills, but there has been evidence adduced to prove that has been the case. Oftentimes, in cases where people are much older, there's also a high possibility that in most cases it's disgruntled family members who bring these accusations up. But either way, if somebody believes that the will has been forged, then of course there is that route to take action, but you have to prove with evidence. And oftentimes it will be signatures. I mean, how do you prove the will has actually been forged? The signature was forged. I mean, there have been issues where sometimes people have said the executors of the wills. I mean, there's been elaborate stories, but it could be either. The answer is that it's definitely not far-fetched. I, as a lawyer, have not dealt in cases where there has been sufficient evidence adduced to prove that the will indeed has been forged, but it exists in case law. So if it exists, it must
happen. Cynthia, as part of your closing remarks, every time we are thinking about cost when it comes to doing certain things. So can we just walk into any lawyer's office and ask for a will to be prepared for it, or there are special lawyers who do that? And on an average, how much will it cost to spend 2 hours with a lawyer and the lawyer prepares my will for me? And then just give us a charge from today onwards.
I can't. Okay, so first of all, yes, you can go into any law firm, any lawyer. Most lawyers must have experience of preparing wills. In terms of charges, I want to direct you all to a document which is readily available called the Ghana Bar Association Scale of Fees, which you can download on Google. So if you type in Ghana Bar Association Scale of Fees, it is a document that was last prepared in 2015, which is a document that it's supposed to guide lawyers on charges for all legal services. Okay. And so it states there, and I do know there's a section that deals with wills and gives you an idea of the cost of drafting a will.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to point you all in that direction. Of course, it is a guide. So it does not mean that when you go and get the services of a lawyer, it is set in stone that it says that charge 1,000 cedis or 2,000 cedis or 3,000 cedis. That's what it is. You have the right to negotiate with a lawyer. I believe that if I'm natural fact, let me try and see when it comes. Let me try and see whether I can get a copy, or if anybody can just Google Ghana Bar Association scale of fees. It's a PDF document of fees.
Cynthia, I just got it. I will share briefly. I just got it.
Brilliant. So let's go into it. The free PDF download. No. So what does it say for wills, Evan?
Just a minute. I was actually going to project it for the benefit of.
Okay, so awesome. Let's project it. So, and it's a hidden secret. People don't know this. So, and I definitely want you guys to be informed about it. So, scale of fees. Is that 2021 one? I'm seeing something about the 2021. I doubt that is. The last one that has been working is in 2015.
Okay, here we have it.
Exactly. Okay, yeah. So the GBA approved scale of fees. So if we go all the way down, it talks about every legal service and brief, and it should definitely have something on wills, a standard will. So wills, it's a simple will without any trust. If there's no trust or limitation on any dispositions, should be a minimum of about 3,000 cedis, or hourly rates would apply if the hours exceed 3,000. A complicated will should be around 9,000, or hourly rates apply if the hours exceed 9,000. But like I said, go and negotiate. Okay, so if you're a young woman who's just starting up, clearly don't have that many assets, it's simple. It's a matter of negotiating with the lawyer, and then also negotiating that every couple of years, if I come and I want to update it, then maybe you just need an hour to update the will or whatever, something like that. So this is what it is. Yeah. So
all right.
in the scheme of things, it's not, but negotiate.
We'll drop the PDF documents on our page as well for all our members, and we've all been directed to Google to pick it up and keep it close to our chest. So Cynthia,
so the next time, my closing statement. Oh yes. My gosh, my closing statement. My closing statement is this. I'm going to be very personal about this. So many years ago, I moved to Ghana with the aim of, I have 6 children in the UK. Educating them was very expensive. At that time, I was married. Now I'm not. Moved to Ghana for a better life, really. 2 years into that, I was diagnosed with cancer. And the whole world came crashing. Before that, I had quite a lot of assets, but the assets were in my wardrobe. Before that, even though I had 6 children who I loved dearly, and I did have a basic will, I hadn't really thought about what would happen if my children, I wasn't here, and who was going to educate them, and what provision I was going to put in place for them. When that event took place, it changed me as a human being and showed me firsthand the importance of ensuring that we prepare. And my life changed. I'm still on that journey. Even if you save 100 cedis a month, save it. Go and see a financial planner. Dr. Susie is one of the best that we have. Let her help you. It's never too early, never too late to start putting things in place. Make sure you take your wealth planning into your own hands.
Yeah.
If you have a business, ensure that you think about succession planning. Think it through. We work so hard. And even if we're here, I personally would want that one day, if I'm not here, my name will continue to live. I want to be able to provide benefit for people, support people, and let my memory live on. And the question I want to ask you is, with all the hard work or the plans that you have you thought about that? Let your legacy live. And it's never too late. If you can tithe, after that incident of cancer, I started to tithe. So if I tithe to my church, I put 10% of everything I make into savings. Then I have a planner in the UK who advises me on investing in treasury bills and shares and all of that. Think about a portfolio of assets. It's important. Very important.
What notes to end this session on? Obviously, there's still a lot we don't know. There's still a lot that we need to be open-minded about. Yeah. And I keep saying, for some things about life, it's a personal decision. Yeah. And you must be personally responsible for certain decisions about your life. No one will do it for you. Wealth creation, wealth protection, generational thinking. It is personal. Thank you so much, Cynthia. You are part of this.
It's a pleasure. I'm definitely coming back. I have to have enjoyed myself so much. I'm so humbled that you allowed me to speak into your life. I'm reading all the comments, but see Dr. Susie. Dr. Susie knows where to find me. Okay, the key thing, because if you come and see me, I'll go back and ask you, have you gone to Dr. Susie? What investment plan has she advised you on before you come and sit in front of me? So don't come. I can see about 40 something people on there. Don't come to me. If you don't have a plan with Dr. Susie, I have nothing to advise you on.
Thank you. I was quickly checking the legal fee guidelines, and I just looked at what an average hourly rate for an hour is. We've had it for an hour, and I must tell you, we have received more.
But what I would say is, and I'll say to all of you, I love what Dr. Susie is doing. Dr. Susie was introduced to me by our deputy governor, Bank of Ghana, who knows that I have a passion for wealth management. And I definitely will say that anybody who comes through her organization, because of the pursuit of what both of us are trying to do in the private wealth space, we definitely will take care of you. So don't look too much at the legal fees. I extend this to all people who are working with you. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take care of you.
Thank you. Our time is up, dear friends.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please share some few announcements and we'll call it a day. The recording will be shared. It will be shared for all of us to have.
Wow. Cynthia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you.
Working with you behind the scenes has already opened my eyes. Friends, Wealth Masters, our announcement is basically a session for next month. And as you all know, the last or the fourth Thursday of every month is our sessions. And this time we'll be having a man some of you may have read from on the page. His name, Dr. Shogo. We call him the walking wisdom, or the man who is so much endowed with wisdom. But interestingly, he's not going to talk so much about wisdom and all of those issues. He's going to talk to us about how to monetize your social media platforms. And I know Cynthia is someone who is very active on social media. So maybe
I need to be part of that. I have to join. Send me the link for that.
I will. So until we meet again, that will be on the 28th of April, same time, 3 p.m. Wish you all the best. And let's keep making more money.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.